Well, good morning, everybody. My first words of the day are going on to the camera. It seems to be the way lately. I used to wake up and go about my day a little while before I made a video. As winter begins to set in, I wake up and I feel more mentally active during the winter. And I've only noticed this over the last couple of years. Before I get too far off track and rambling, because it's early, I wanted to specifically note 2 points in this video. 2 things that I observed and that I was thinking about this morning. They're both somewhat related to each other. The first thing I'd like to talk about is honesty. Honesty in the sense of the internet and the people on the internet. I woke up this morning and looked at my subscriptions. I had 2 subscriptions in a row that were both basically a video with a person saying, well, why do I do this, or I feel this way. One person even questioned his own mental state, said he hasn't been doing mentally well. These 2 videos right next to each other, I guess that opened up a little bit of dialogue for me here to speak about the importance of this, because what it's doing is it's showing the humility of people, that we're able to admit our faults to one another on the internet. You know, that a person's able to say, yeah, I suck in this way, but I'm working on it. We don't get that from politicians. We don't get that from our bosses. We rarely get that from our parents. And I don't think we really consciously think about that very much. But when we see others that are honest around us, and others that are trying to be honest with themselves, and that are willing to not just be honest with themselves, but to admit that, I find that very noble. And I've been trying to do it myself. I've always made it a point to point out my own faults in my videos, because I know. I mean, it takes away the ammunition from people who just want to attack others for their faults. And on top of that, many of what people consider your faults aren't maybe faults at all. Maybe there's some of you out there who have family and friends telling you you need to stop doing something, or you need to start doing something. But you know in your heart it doesn't feel right. But all of your peers are telling you this thing. And we have the same thing occurring with people's mental states, others questioning each other's mentality. I say we're all crazy. Because even if most of us are crazy, we're all crazy. It wouldn't matter if you were the sanest person in the world. If you're with 7 billion crazy people, then you're crazy too. Or maybe they're the only one crazy. Maybe the nutty people or the rest are actually the sane ones. I just wanted to note that offhand before I forgot it, to say, thank you to the world for being honest. Because we've spent too long living under the illusion from television and books that these authors, these poets, these musicians, these actors, all these people are just perfect somehow. We know that's not true, because whenever something goes wrong with a celebrity, we just dwell on it. But often when the people just admit their mistakes, we move on, we forget about it. Look at politics. Look at how much people deny their own short-sightedness and try to cover up for it. So I wanted to make that point. And then I wanted to talk about work versus responsibility. And what I mean by work is self-work, working on the self. It's become a major issue for a lot of spiritual seekers, if you will, that sometimes their practices tend to dominate their lives. Often this happens in religion, where a person will put their religion ahead of their lives, in the sense of they would go to church out of obligation, let's say, oh, I don't want to go, but I have to go, that kind of stuff. I feel like that's putting a false sense of security within people to think that they're forced to do a certain practice. Meditation is the exact same way. One of my favorite proverbs, or I guess sayings, was from a Confucian teaching where the man came to his Zen master and said, I need to meditate. And he said, why? And he said, I haven't been meditating lately. I need to meditate more. And he said, then don't meditate. because you're becoming attached to meditation. And I think that when we become attached to the ideas and the symbols of our work, and I mean personal growth, we often miss what we're supposed to be doing in our lives. So the problem is, how do we reconcile our free time with our work time and our spiritual time? I think that Manly Hall summed it up best. Well, between him and Alan Watts, and McKenna had some say on this too, but we all have some say on this, and I think we all know it, that the idea is to make the work the play. To make the work part of the fun, instead of making it difficult for us. So if you have a practice, it's sad to me that the Christians have such a fearful religion quite often. It's because I feel sad for someone that they believe out of fear of hell. And I think that any true practice that is to bring happiness to the individual, at least in this life, has to have a sense of acceptance and tolerance for all, but it also has to have a sense of a journey or a method for the person, rather as opposed to saying, I just believe this and this is what I do, to say that I'm constantly changing my perceptions and working on new things. Now this is how I keep myself happy and functioning. But I've wondered, times in the past I've gone through these phases where my spiritual essence or my motivation towards knowledge exceeds my motivation towards responsibility. And after observing these cycles over time, I've seen that it's not a matter of whether I do these things or not. It's a matter of how do I well, I don't know how to formulate that really. Kind of at a loss for words. I think that people's idea of what they should be working towards has to involve these pictures, these symbols, archetypes, allegories about what we think that life's really about. So, in other words, let's see. I'm going to think about this for a minute, and then I'm going to get back to it. Well, I thought about it for a few minutes and reached absolutely no conclusion of how to describe what I'm trying to say. So, I'll just mentioned, I guess, an Alan Watts video. If you haven't seen any Alan Watts, and for those who haven't, please don't get him confused with Alan Watt, which is some sort of new conspiracy guy who's totally irrelevant and separate from Alan Watts. Alan Watts was a Westerner who took up Zen teachings, and he makes things fun. He makes it enjoyable. And he had a video called Work as Play. I actually uploaded it. I don't know where it is. It's on my channel somewhere, but he makes work as play. I guess that's the best way I can describe what I'm trying to convey here, which is that when we wake up in the morning, rather than fearing the day ahead or thinking it's a challenge, a negative challenge, we think of it as, all right, another hurdle, another day. And I don't even want to call it a hurdle, because a hurdle implies that it's something that we have to get over. And so a day is not a hurdle, I guess, as much as a drop in a pond. You know, a drop of water in a pond. It ripples the surface for a moment, and then it blends in with the rest. And that's kind of the metaphor, I guess, for every day of all of our lives. That we make our little ripple, and then everything calms down. I've learned some fascinating things about who I am in life. And the reason why I like to share these things is because I've watched my own growth. Think of it as a chart. Okay, this is the best way I can describe my version of growth. People will often think that a person is either here, or they're going up, climbing towards some spiritual awareness. And for those who have never attempted any type of practice, spiritual or otherwise, you might not understand the importance of how these dedications such as meditation and prayer focus on the, putting your intention towards the deeper meaning of life, reveals so many secrets to you that you cannot convey or describe. They're feelings that we have. These are knowing feelings, and I made an entire video last night about this. It was really long, and I just didn't upload it because it doesn't make any sense to a lot of people, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's things I can't describe in words. So, why do I try? Well, I don't. I just talk about the things that I think I can describe, which is, work as play. Making our lives as functional and integrated as possible. I guess the only way for me to say what is right is to observe natural order and see, how do the animals do it? How do the plants do it? Nature is the palette. Nature is the book, the Bible of life. It's the one thing that we can observe and know what works and what doesn't. And when animals dedicate themselves to their work, play just becomes part of their work. So I guess what I'm saying, in short, if you feel like you're working too hard and not playing enough, then that means perhaps you're not doing the right kind of work. As a carpenter, I really enjoy what I do. I'm not able to do it anymore to the degree I was because of my back. So I moved on to other things. And I think that that's one issue that a lot of people have, is trying to get over thinking that their purpose is to have a career and put forward some particular thing into society. It's not like that. It's just not like that. Not the way I see it. And each one of us changes. Each one of us moves with the currents. And as I was saying, some people think we're here and some people are here and then people are climbing, this is the way I see it. It's an up and down road that gradually climbs. So you'll get to a point where you'll really see everything, then you'll be disillusioned a little bit. Then you'll start to see how it really works, then you're disillusioned a little bit. And this pattern goes on for years. And the only way I can know where it really goes in older years is by observing my elders. And from what I've heard by observing my elders, that there is a point reached where, a point of understanding. And I hope at that point I don't withdraw and, like so many of these people have who have sought this path, I just hope I don't withdraw and try to keep it within instead of expressing myself, because I feel like that the more things that I learn, the more difficult it is for me to convey them in words. And by just knowing that about myself, I can only imagine what some of these elders must actually know, the information they must be able to be contained. And people will say, oh, if they know this and that, why don't they tell us? They can't. They can't. And I understand that. I respect that. Everything is learned by degrees. There's no book that a person can open and learn about the secrets of life. You have to dedicate yourself every day. And my honesty is that I don't put enough time in. But I'm not going to obsess over it, because that becomes an attachment. So when I'm ready, I move forward. And winter is a time for me to move forward. So this year has been a very successful year for me finding myself and finding out more about my people. And I just wanted to say, I don't know what I wanted to say. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.